When you're lying in bed at night, do you ever randomly remember some relatively minor social missteps or poorly chosen words you said years earlier? And then beat yourself up over it even though it really wasn't a big deal? If so, what happened? In 7th grade, a cute girl asked me to sit next to her. I said my mom won't let me sit next to girls. My mom said no such thing. If you said cute girls, you'd have been a total baller. So close. That level of smoothness eludes me to this day. I accidentally mixed up an inside joke with the wrong friend group with disastrous results. Friend group number 1, the joke was when someone calls and asks who's all there, we would add Daryl to the list of names. Daryl wasn't a real person. The joke wasn't really funny, and made no sense out of context, but I guess that's why it was an inside joke. Friend group number 2, I was hanging out playing some drinking games with a bunch of people that I hadn't hung out with in a while. It was a kind of get-together to remember a friend that they had who had recently died in a car accident. I didn't know him that well, but I was always down to party. Anyway, the phone rings, and the person who answered started listing off names. Sorting my cards for another round of presidents and assholes, I offhandedly said, "Hey, and Daryl." It was the typical record scratch moment where everyone stopped and looked at me. Daryl was the name of the friend who had just died. This happened in 2002 and I still think about it all the time. Daryl was there in spirit and appreciated that you, at least, remembered he was there. Oh man, I have a mixed up inside joke scenario. It wasn't me. It was my neighbor. My neighbor is morbidly obese and my mom is Korean. And they joke with each other about it. My neighbor makes racist comments to my mom, she makes fun of my neighbor's weight. It's just part of their friendship. They often did it in public too, but it was always obvious when they were standing next to each other that it was inside joke. At one point my neighbor was out with her husband, they're both white. She was at a checkout counter when she blithely remarked about all the damn Koreans taking over the region. The checkout lady just stares at her. Then the husband leaned over and said, "It's not as funny when Dragon Meme's mom isn't standing next to you." Cue my horrified neighbor desperately trying to explain that she wasn't a racist, that it's an inside joke. My friend is Korean, which of course just made her look worse. My mom lost it when she heard the story. That story had a great start and did not disappoint. This is pure pain right here, folks. I once said a "yo mama" joke to someone whose mother had just died. He was actually really classy about it. I cringe each time I think of it. I did that when I was in my early 20s. To a big hulking man at work. And when he said his mom was dead, I unwittingly said, "I'm just cracking open a cold one." I got my ass kicked that day. I was lucky I didn't lose my job. I was a dumbass many times. I did this too. I still think about it every day. When I was in 5th grade, our teacher said a joke in front of the class and everyone laughed, including myself. After the laughter died down, a girl looked up at me and said, "You have a really damn disgusting laugh, EW." I became so self-conscious about laughter since that specific day, and after years I have trouble actually laughing. My brain kinda made it a habit to just smile or slightly chuckle at something, even if it is really funny. I feel that I had to teach myself to make sex noises. I got used to be totally quiet while I was masturbating. Now I am wondering I should be making noises as well. I went through a phase where I scolded people for reading Harry Potter because my parents told me it was evil. Lots of awkward situations because of that. Oh my god, I can relate to scolding people for stupid shit that didn't matter. My parents were ultra-religious and taught me to have a really messed concept of men, sex, love, and relationships. When I was in middle school, I scolded so many of my friends for having crushes or getting boyfriends. I remember I lost one friend because I told her that it was disrespectful of her to have a boyfriend while also having a crush on Michael Bublé. I said some shit like her having a crush on Bublé while dating someone else was almost as bad as cheating. I always cringe and facepalm whenever I remember how much of a self-righteous dick I was. I totally deserved to be friend dumped. When I was in 6th grade in the gifted and talented group, one of the students couldn't read one of the books because it was about the Salem witch trials and their parents wouldn't let him. Oof, they really set you up for failure on that one. Junior prom, I blurted out during dinner to my date. I'm so bored, and I have no idea why it came out of my mouth. I'm pretty well-mannered and quiet. I forget how I tried to play it off, but I felt so bad. I was sitting in a small group of friends in school. And my crush, literally the love of my life at that point, admitted she liked me. It was the happiest moment of my entire life. So naturally I said, EW. In front of everyone. This was 2nd grade and I still think about it weekly. My friend in 2nd grade made fun of me for liking a girl. He is now married to said girl. For most of my education, I went to public school, and like most kids, I was socially awkward. For high school, I received an academic scholarship to a private Catholic school. It was a really big deal for my family. I didn't know anyone at the new school. Between an odd combination of academics, sports and the tail end of puberty, I became very popular in this new school. I wasn't used to the attention, and it definitely got to my teenage head. Nearly all of my social circles became around the new school and not with my old local friends. I'm in my junior year. I head to a McDonald's for lunch with a few friends from the new school. Working the counter, I see a girl who I used to go to public school with that I used to have a crush on. She just lit up when she saw me, she was so excited, and I was a shitty teenager and I just ignored her. I pretended I didn't recognize her. She looked so deflated when I didn't acknowledge her. Note this was the 90s. My family moved a few times after that. I settled down in a different part of the country after university. I never made it back to that town. I've relived that arsehole moment for years now. Fast forward to one of those nights when I relive that moment, and I decide to look her up on Facebook to apologize. I find out she died 10 years ago in an auto accident. Since I found out her fate, I feel even more awful about that moment. This one makes me feel bad, damn. Yeah, I was not ready for that at all. That is so sad. Freshman year of high school. It was one of those days before school starts and you meet your teacher and your parents are there. My teacher was handing me a piece of paper and I didn't see the paper, so I shook his hand. He said, "Oh," and my mom said, and I panicked and said, "I just wanted to be polite." So I still want to die when I think of that. That's actually a good recovery. Somehow I feel your pain. I was visiting Portland for a wedding that lined up with my birthday as well. We went out to celebrate and finished the night at a karaoke bar. Realizing I'm too drunk to sing, I pick My Name Is by Eminem as my song to perform. There's two versions of that song. One is the original release. The other tamed down, which you most commonly hear today. The woman controlling the music put on the original. And off I went. One of the lines at the end is, "Running over lesbians in a spaceship while they screamin' at me, let's just be friends." I finished the song and I'm met by applause from my friends and one other table. The rest of the place is silent. The DJ goes, "Nice job. Don't know if it was the best choice for Gay Women's Night though." And at that moment I wanted to leave my skin. This is very painful. Should have sang "Why Can't We Be Friends" next. I was in 5th grade or so and I was sitting in class with a couple classmates. We were talking about Weird Al songs we liked. This one girl asked, "Have you heard some Weird Al song?" And I followed with, "Have you ever heard I'm So Sick of You?" Which I guess they hadn't heard because she looked immediately down at the desk, sort of somber, and the dude did a little ho-ho, as if I did a nice burn. I guess they thought I was telling this girl I was so sick of her. I had no clue at the time though, so I just let it ride. Still feel bad about that one. Jesus frick, you killed her, dude. I'm sure if she was in this thread, then she would tell this very story from her perspective. In 8th grade one farted once, and a few minutes later, someone smelled it and asked who did it. They asked if it was me and I just started crying. I used to be very sensitive and so I thought they were accusing me and felt really bad. So I cried. It's partially because of that I am now much less emotional. And tend to keep my emotions bottled up. This isn't funny for you, but this made me laugh out loud. To make you feel better, whoever asked you probably doesn't remember, they're too busy obsessing over their awkward, embarrassing moments. I was visiting my cousin about 4 months ago and we didn't have the same greeting handshake. So it was like that really weird thing with your hands where you end up in some super awkward handshake. Last night I thought about this like 20 minutes and blamed myself. SMH, that was super unnecessary. Handshake anxiety is real and I dread it.